Hi Guy. Today I thought we'd have a look back sort of to my past and the way things once were in general in relation to arcades and maybe arcade machines. I mean, I'm 37. When I grew up, it was effectively, I was a kid during the 80s and a teen into the 90s. So I pretty much lived through the whole arcade craze and the sort of the downfall of it into modern times where it's pretty much a non-existent thing. I mean, even in the 80s, you could go anywhere. I mean, any shop, any arcade, any like shopping arcade or mall if you're over in the US, and there'd be like these old 8-bit style, then arcade machines dotted around as decent cabinets like your Double Dragons, fighting games, Bubble Bobble, that sort of thing, classic Donkey Kongs, lots and lots of cabs like that all over the show. One thing I wanted to talk about is just the fact that it's pretty much all gone these days, which is really, really sad. So there's not, people don't have, because a lot of people are a lot younger, they just do not have that experience, which is, of course, is a shame. But I just wanted to talk about my experiences with it. And I mean, one of the earliest things I remember is in my local town, we had it was like a fair would come 2 or 3 times a year, and there was a huge like market ground, which was a massive flat car park, and they just fill it with like different rides, like waltzers and a big wheel, really loud stuff, and then all these like you could win a goldfish or prizes like shooting aisles, like, oh god, that sort of thing, and throwing hoops over stuff and maybe catching your own fish and things like that. And very, very quick side story there. I actually caught a fish back in the day, and it went on to live for 20 years. So fairground fish do live. But one of my first introductions to arcades back then is they would always have these big cabinets. What do you call them? Like porta cabinets, which they were basically trucks, and they'd open up and they'd be just filled with different arcade games. And one of the earliest memories playing in the one was played Kung Fu. What else was it? Donkey Kong was in one, and the Star Wars. In fact, I think Star Wars, and that was the wireframe one with all the voice and everything. It was one of the first earliest games I played. And God, this is a long time ago. It must have been the mid-80s. And but there'd be places like I'd go to the local swimming baths, and they'd have like it was a Contra cabinet, and the game was just a standalone cabinet, nothing special. And the game would change like once every 6 to 12 months, and they get something new in. And you'd always love playing the stuff that was on them. Then there'd be other places like you go in a Chippy. I mean, Chippy's easy. I don't know any in my local town. Even the one who had it at the time just doesn't have the arcade machine anymore. I can remember this one chip shop had a Double Dragon cabinet in there, and all that would happen is like as the school shut, all these kids would be piling in to play this game because we just didn't have access to anything like that on a regular basis. And it was crazy, absolutely crazy. And the guy was making... I remember talking to him years later when I was probably about 18, 19. He was still there. And just saying, how much, were you making a lot of money off that? And he was gutted in the end because he didn't pay very much money for the cabinet. I think he maybe bought it for about £800 or £900 or something like that. And every 2 years he'd change the game in the cab. And every single time he'd have crowds of people rushing through, not really buying any of the other stuff, no chips or anything. They'd just dump all that money into the cabinet. It was a very different time. But even, going around to local towns back then, even I'm not in a seaside town or anything, and you'd have buildings converted, and they'd have like full aisles and aisles of arcade machines all stuck inside, and then there'd be a section, the adult bit at the back with all the the one-arm bandits, that style of thing, and the jackpot thingy machine with the what they call the like slot machine types. But yeah, okay, fuck, that's a very long time ago. But all of them have gone. They've literally, arcades just died a death in the early 90s. Really, they just started disappearing. I'm not sure why. I mean, that's another topic entirely. As games at home just got better and better, people just weren't as interested anymore. When you're playing these 16-bit arcade games, arcade equivalents, and then they weren't as good looking, but they weren't far off, and it was good enough. I mean, Golden Axe, perfect example. It wasn't perfect on the Mega Drive, but it was more than good enough to meet what you'd met back then. I mean, one thing I do remember was they always stank, these arcades. You know, they were always a bit of a mess inside. People smoking indoors. It wasn't illegal back then, and you know, they'd be filled with smoke, and in some of them stinking of beer, cup stains all over the place. They were absolutely filthy, but they were always filled with kids. Great times. A few other things I can remember. I mean, I always used to we'd go to these seaside towns pretty much every other year. And one in particular I remember is going to is a Great Yarmouth, and they had lots and lots of cabinets dotted everywhere. But one that's always stuck out in my mind was Wonder Boy. You know, what an odd game, but to play that on the arcade, the original Sega game, and it was just literally like facing the ocean with the sea. And my parents had just given me like a couple of quid. And it was like 10p a go, and it would last me for hours, absolutely for hours. I think it was just their way of getting rid of me for a few hours. But I was obsessed with it. And similar things, no matter where you went in the country, they were everywhere. I can't. If you weren't there at the time, it's just hard to express just the reach that arcades had to people, and just ordinary everyday people. They were such a huge and big thing, and then it just all disappeared. And now all you've maybe got a few bowling alleys and the odd cabinet dotted around here, the odd gambling machine in pubs and stuff like that, and it's all gone. You know, literally all them times have gone. Now, I mean, the great thing is you've got some things like arcade clubs dotted around up and down the country, which is always usually started by like old retro gamers and stuff. But it's a shame that's it's all dying off in general. I just wish there was more of them. Anyway, guys, I mean, have you got any stories to tell about arcades? Have you got anything to talk about in the comments below? I mean, what was your first arcade? What can you remember about playing in the arcades at the time, or any of that sort of experience that is completely missing these days? Feel free to drop it in the box below. As always, thanks for watching, and please look forward to another video soon.